All right, guys, at long last, I have composed my thoughts enough to give you my official review on Far Cry 5. Yes, this is slow, but it's been that kind of time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down to the way I did old school game reviews before I started having to, like, I'll avoid the word I was going to use for my services at other websites where I have to use their methodologies. I prefer to just break it out into graphics, audio and music, gameplay, and then sort of my overall impressions. That's the way I have rolled since I started reviewing games in, oh God, like 1996. That's how long I've been doing this. Wow, full 20 years. That's interesting. Anyway, in terms of graphics, it's a Far Cry game, meaning they're realistic. They look good, but not great because they have to run on, like something like a PS4. Looks really good on the my PS4, and I bought it on PS4 because it's stable, and then I wanted to play the co-op with a friend of mine, and she's only got a PS4. So that's the nice thing about buying your own games instead of getting them from the game maker, is that you get to set which version you get. But it looked, for a launch PS4, it still looked pretty good. I don't know how much better I would want graphics to look. They're perfectly serviceable. Nothing amazing in terms of art style or fancy pants stuff, but rendered really well. Very little lag, even though I was playing for a really long time and it was a plain old PlayStation. And the highlight for me in terms of visual design were the costumes, the physical appearance of the various characters. You could look at them and really get a sense of who they were based on how they look, just little details in their clothes and their glasses. And I was very self-conscious because the main bad guy, Joseph, has yellow glasses too, but his glasses were actually the glare reduction hunting glasses that people wear out there. So that's a nice little bit of character. They didn't have to spoon feed you through dialogue. So I really enjoyed that design element. The one thing I was really bugged by, and I'm not going to get in why because this is a review and not a political thing, but the Faith character looks different in the when they Photoshop digital characters. It drives me crazy, but she looks distinctly different in the stills on the load screens and the promo art than she does in game. She's wearing a lot more eye makeup. I don't know why they do that. It's dissonant to me. This is not a taste thing. It's just like, that's weird, and it was distracting. In terms of audio, the original music they do for this game is astounding. They do satires of Christian folk music, and I don't know that they do a rock tune, but they definitely do some folk songs, and they are so subversive. Really well done. Worth a listen to just for that. So smart, and really bleeds, really informs the game quite well. The fact that it's, audio environment. The general sounds are very good. Sound is important. It really helps you play the game. It helps you with your reaction time. The voices for the main characters are good. The voices for the NPCs are at times Bethesda level not so good. I got a little bit of information on someone who auditioned for the game, that in the process of auditioning, they got the sense they really didn't know what they were doing in this regard. And it shows. The accents are all over the place. There's a lot of you Yanks are like, we oot and a boot. There's a lot of Canadian actors who sound Canadian. And yes, Montana is like just south of Calgary. Everything I know about Montana is people I know from Alberta going down there for like cheap printing and things like that. But, you know, Montana, people there don't sound like, you know, where I lived for a while in Tennessee. They don't have that southern drawl, you know. They don't have the Texas twang. It's a softer, less immediately doable accent, and the NPCs are just all over the place. So because this is a game review, be aware of that. If that's going to drive you crazy, it is not as bad as Skyrim, but it's noticeable. I tell you this, so if you do decide to play the game, it'll be funny instead of really annoying. Gameplay, Far Cry is always a game that rises and falls on its really great shoot 'em up, open world sandbox gameplay. And they've really taken away a lot of the barriers that past games had to just blasty, shooty goodness. There are fetch quests, but they tend to be... The journey on those quests tends to be quite good. So yeah, you do have to collect comic books and bobbleheads and things like that. But that puts you into little corners of the game that you otherwise might not experience. And they're funny encounters. There's some nice little environmental stuff. There are some interesting puzzles to solve, and I really enjoyed it. The sandbox experience felt extremely fluid, and one experience kind of flowed into the next and the next and the next. And the next thing I knew, 6 hours had gone by. But you don't spend a lot of time hunting. You can buy maps if you want to find things on your own. Don't buy the maps. I liked buying the maps so I could just seek the stuff out. There was less wasted time getting from point A to point B than in previous open world games that I found. And that's why I feel like the criticisms from other people that the game is just sort of a reskin, there's nothing new there, I disagree. There's a lot of subtle refinements in this type of gameplay that mean the pace is really interesting. There is an unending stream of stuff to blow up without it, most of the time, feeling overwhelming. The exception to this are the bunkers for the 3 different bosses. There is a pray and spray quality to some of those gunfights I personally didn't like. I find them lazy game design. I get why they did it. They want people to finish the game. But it really felt more like a perception of difficulty than true difficulty, because it's just bullets flying at you everywhere. So personal dislike of mine. Give you some, it's like the end of the Tomb Raider reboot game, you know, how everything's just flying at you from everywhere and you're either like super overpowered and so you can soak a ton of damage, or you just kind of hide under cover and wait and it takes freaking forever to get your shots off. It's that kind of thing, which I didn't like. You have to use those perks, the homeopathics as they call them, the drugs that are known in Far Cry games, but you get past them. I just, in comparison to the true difficulty in truly great shooters like the Metro games, it's not there. It's much more of a something for everyone type of gameplay experience, but the core of just wandering around, there's an unending amount of stuff to do in the Far Cry arcade. That's a brilliant like weekly challenges and everything like that. They've taken it out of the main game. So unlike past Assassin's Creed games or, you know, Far Cry 4, when it was like, there's an event always there and driving you crazy. It's separate game mode now, and it's a lot cleaner. You can also reset the outposts. So if you want to replay them again, you can. If you are an experienced shooter, play the game on hard. Normal is too easy. In terms of my overall thoughts of the game. I've talked a lot in other videos about the story, but not in terms of a review, a thing of my thoughts. The game sacrifices fun for a message at critical moments, and you have to be prepared for that. It is not the ending of Mass Effect 3. I think a lot of people read too much in or assume too much about certain parts of the ending. If you pay attention to little bits of dialogue here and there, especially in the final encounters with the sub-bosses, the ending does make sense. It does. The endings. There are 3 endings in the game. The endings do make sense if you actually pay attention to what the characters are saying. If you don't and expect a happy ending and not a Far Cry ending, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to walk away and it's going to be a bummer. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I'm a huge fan of Far Cry games. The numbered Far Cry games are always fairly ambivalent. They're challenging. The one I found the most satisfying was Far Cry 4, where I did the wrong thing. But still, there's sort of what do you mean that was the wrong thing to do? I claim it's not. But I formed no attachment to Pagan Min, so I didn't have a problem. Other people really liked him. But Far Cry 5 is more challenging in that regard. Joseph Seed is not like Vaas. He's not like Pagan Min. He is an antagonist to be respected, but it's hard. It's impossible to like the guy. What I like about the game as a work of art, as opposed to just something you fart around it and blow crap up with a grenade launcher, which I really enjoyed doing. If you want to get the game and just get it for the sandbox gameplay, and you don't want to be bummed out, just play in the arcade and do the quests and all that stuff. Don't finish it. Just don't do the ending. It's perfectly fine on its own. But what I liked about it is there were a few places as I was playing it, a few critical moments, I was like, oh my God, how would someone come back from that? Like, someone would be screwed up beyond all recognition in real life because of this. And the game actually pays respect to that. And I like that. Not everyone is going to like that because they want it to be escapist fantasy instead of a commentary on violence and trauma and duty and nobility and sacrifice and all these things, belief, faith, and so on. It is not an escapist work. It is something that does comment. And every Far Cry game going back to Far Cry 2, when they dealt with blood diamonds, has done this. So I don't know why anybody is surprised. It is very political, but not in the way a lot of people thought. I do not feel misled by the advance hype for it, the way some people did. Overall, it was a really great experience that you should take your time with and really just enjoy the journey. Experiment with weapons. Go fishing. I really like the fishing minigame. Get some vehicles, figure out what you like best, learn about the characters, explore the world. That is the best way to really enjoy this game, because the story primarily is provided by the player and how you choose to discover the world of Hope, Montana. It is not a narrative-driven story. The narrative is the pretext you are given to delve into this world. And if you look at it that way, it's an enjoyable, challenging, thought-provoking experience that isn't without its flaws. But if you're in the mood for something that makes you want to think while blowing stuff up, you can do a lot worse. There's, like I said, there's a lot of content, and especially that Far Cry Arcade, as well as the shout outs to previous games. There's a couple of Blood Dragon inspired quests. There's one reference to Far Cry Primal. There are a lot of return characters that the game doesn't bother to explain. So if you know who they are, you're like, hey, that guy. Otherwise, it means nothing to new players. But I think the Far Cry franchise might be starting to get a little bit impenetrable for new people who don't have this primer. But that's going to be the challenge for Far Cry 6, which is 2 games away, because we're going to get our weird and wonderful non-numbered effed up game. And I have no idea what it's going to be based on this, but 6 is going to be a challenge. 6 is probably going to have to reintroduce some people to the whole idea of Far Cry, because it is getting dense. The variations on the, guns, drugs, and rock and roll with political commentary, it's getting freaking dense. But as it is, it holds up. It presents a piece of rural America as a foreign place in a way that is not about Christianity and is not about Trump and is not about, urban America. The whole point is that even close to us, there are people who live in a very different way. And if you keep in mind that you are an outsider the entire time you play these games, like every Far Cry game, that's going to contextualize your experience, so you're going to get the most enjoyable time. So there it is. There's my video review. I'm not giving it a number. I really enjoyed it, but I want you to base your purchasing decisions based on what you thought of what I said. That's what these reviews are for. So thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting my core gaming content. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, I will try to do these faster in future. Okay? Okay, thanks.